It's Thursday, April 16th, 2026, and it's time for The Swamp, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for daily updates. Every article is linked below in the description, and the highlight clips from this video will begin dropping on this channel tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. We're going to kick things off with Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who testified at the House Ways and Means Committee regarding the 2027 budget proposal for the Department of Health and Human Services. And to start this off from Rapid Response 47, Secretary Kennedy, he talks about foster care, and more specifically, the Biden administration, who was excluding an entire class of people because of their religious beliefs with regard to foster care, and instructed states to pass laws refusing families that had certain religious beliefs, mainly Christian religious beliefs, and we are changing that. Yeah, that is insane. I had no idea that was going on. Probably almost nobody really knew that was going on unless you're in the foster care system, if you're a foster parent or what have you. Absolutely ridiculous. So let's have a look.
Trump and the First Lady, who's been extraordinary for us to work with, have said their vision is one family for one child. Right now, we have a 2-to-1 ratio. And part of the reason for that is that the Biden administration was excluding an entire class of people because of their religious beliefs. We are, and told the states to actually pass laws, instructed them to pass laws refusing families who had certain religious beliefs, mainly Christian religious beliefs, to not be allowed to have children. And that dramatically constricted the pool of available parents. We are changing that. We're also addressing one of the big issues, which is to allow children to stay with their families of origin. One of the biggest drivers of those separations is drug abuse. And we are aggressively going after these issues. And partially as a result of our work, the number of foster children has dropped from 425,000 to 325,000 because there's more kids who we're doing our early preventative services on and intervening early with parents who have drug addiction problems.
Yeah, see, look, I think that's a good idea. If there is extended family that can take care of them, that's definitely the way to go. I mean, it should have always been the standard. I'd be surprised if they didn't make that the standard the whole time. So it's ridiculous that they're discriminating based on religion, especially with Christians. I mean, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have done unto you, practicing good morals, good values. I don't see what's really wrong with being raised with Christian families. But, of course, the Democrats do because they seem to be a bunch of nihilists these days, a bunch of psychopaths. Anyway, so next one on foster. Okay, so no, we already did that one. So let's go to the next one. HHS Rapid Response. And Dr. Markary, FDA, he's heading the FDA, he's the 27th commissioner of the US FDA. On his first year, the US FDA had record numbers of approvals, 67 new therapeutics, 39 new devices, and 91 new generic drugs.
We have broken every record for drug approvals. We approved 67 drugs. This year, new drugs. We approved, which is a record. We approved 39 new devices, which is a record. We approved 91 new generic drugs, which is a record. We have broken.
Well, I mean, it's good as long as the drugs are helpful. I mean, look, I would trust that coming from RFK Jr. probably over anybody else that's been in recent memory. In the last probably several administrations. More than 50 medical schools have committed to expand nutrition education from an average of just 2 hours to 40 hours. That is ridiculous that they were only spending 2 hours in medical school on nutrition. What, like, they teach what you are, what you eat, and then maybe just a chapter or two, and that's about it. Absolutely ridiculous. And of course, the food pyramid that RFK Jr. had to invert in order for us to, intake our food correctly and not do it ass backwards, like with the big pharma. God knows who else was in charge of that. Absolutely insane.
More than 50 medical schools have committed to expand nutrition education from an average of just 2 hours to 40 hours.
All right, we heard it from the man himself, all 8 seconds of it. And from the vigilant Fox RFK Jr., calm down, Congressman. Okay, so this is one of the back and forth, bouts that they get into between RFK Jr. and the Democrats. So let's have a look at this.
Have you aligned your goals dealing with the reforms to the EPA protections and how that is making people sicker?
He's not the EPA.
Healthier? That was my question.
What?
Yeah, I could not answer those questions because it's
you
not in
can't answer the question as the
secretary.
It's
not my agency.
You don't coordinate with the EPA, Mr. Secretary? Your department is not involved with
I mean, how
rolling
close are they
back
really taught?
protections that would
Environment?
increase exposure to heavy materials, even though it affects people's health? Is that what you're telling me? You don't coordinate?
I say calm down,
not in charge of them.
Congressman.
Don't tell me.
Calm down,
Look,
Congressman.
It's personal to my constituents like Deja
Your
and
time
Richard.
is over.
Do not tell me to calm down.
Oh, getting emotional.
Healthcare is real. And if you
yeah.
can't answer basic questions, then maybe come prepared next time.
I'm answering the question. You don't give me the chance to answer. You
Uh-huh.
haven't given me a chance to
You
answer.
said you
I'm happy
didn't-
to answer your
you said
question.
you
and
weren't-
you cut me off when I started to answer.
You said you
You started screaming.
not-
Maybe he was a lifelong
Okay,
Democrat.
the
He knows
time
how to
is
play their games.
expired. We're going to move on. Mr.
People
Yacob.
scream when they don't have much to say.
Oh, wow.
don't have anything to say because you can't even
People
uphold
screaming they don't have
what
much
it
to
is you're
say.
doing to
Mr.
reduce
Horsford,
cost
your
and
2 minutes
coverage.
over.
Give me a chance to answer the question.
Right. Yeah.
We're moving on to Mr. Yacob.
It's getting hot in here, Mr. Chairman.
All right. That was good. You wanted another one? All right. We got another one. Let's see. I'm just checking to see if I think I already have this one. If I don't, yeah. Well, actually, maybe not. No, black kids on ADHD meds should be reparented. I've got a few from Democrats. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to play the same one over again. So yeah, I actually don't think that I already had this one. So let's give this one a look.
Or parented, I should say, a black child.
I don't even know what that phrase means, and I doubt
Just
that
a
I
yes or
said
no
it.
answer.
I doubt that I
did
said
say
that
it.
phrase.
You
No,
absolutely
I'm not
said
going to answer something that I didn't say.
You absolutely said it.
Why? Because
I'd
it's on
like
the
to hear
billboard?
recording.
So to be
Because
clear,
it doesn't
sir,
make any
I
Anybody
sense.
could put
I don't
anything
even
on.
know what
reclaim
it
my time.
means.
I don't either. That's why I'm
And
asking.
by the way,
Why did
So
you
to
false
be
freight?
clear, you're not a
26.
doctor, you have no medical degree, and you
So?
have no formal medical training.
As
And
have-
you have never
as Sure, a lot of
parented
HHS
a
leaders
black
haven't either.
child. Yet you
24
are
of the
suggesting
26
that
HHS
government-
secretaries
Mr.
have not had
Secretary,
medical
This is my
degrees.
time.
There you go.
And I say
It's
to the
my
chairman,
time.
I want to reclaim my time. So
The emotions.
you are not a doctor, have no formal medical training, and you've never parented a black child.
As he said.
And yet you are suggesting that the federal government should take black children away from their families and reparent them and send them off to some wellness
No
farm
fucking way he
instead
said
of
that.
providing them
That is
with
retarded.
evidence-based
You're just
medical
making
care.
stuff up.
Yeah,
I
just
am
making shit up.
absolutely not making this up.
He's just absolutely making that shit up. There is absolutely no freaking way that he said that. That is the most retarded thing ever. We should be removing black kids from their parents because we should. No, that is absolutely something that a hardcore, heavy card-carrying Democrat today would probably say. I think RFK Jr. has probably moved on from all that. Not that he probably would have ever said that. I don't think anybody, probably even virtually any Democrat probably wouldn't even say that. It's absolutely ridiculous. RFK Jr. just schooled Democrat Congresswoman Judy Chu on hepatitis B vaccines. Chu claimed the Trump administration has no regard for the health, safety, and well-being of Asian American communities. Okay, here we go, playing the identity politics, getting all racist again, as the Democrats love to do. So, all right, so there's the back and forth, so we'll just get straight to the video.
It's clear that this administration has no regard for the health, safety, and well-being of Asian American communities.
We're all human beings, lady.
As well as
You're an idiot.
communities across the United States.
Why you gotta be all about segregation?
Well, if that's
Hepatitis
Do it
B
quickly, yes.
is a terrible disease. But babies are not at risk unless they essentially have zero risk, unless their mother is
Yeah, unless
infected.
their mom has it.
Or all mothers are tested when they go into the hospital to have a baby, and for all those people who are infected, the vaccine is still a recommended vaccine. Everybody else, it's available.
Exactly.
Parents can assess the risk themselves.
Yeah, they can still get it if they want it.
Insurance will pay for it. We did not remove the vaccine from being insured.
They want you to think
And
they did, though.
we just believe that Americans should have that choice, that the state should not make that choice for them. Hepatitis B vaccine was not safety tested. It had a 4-day test with no placebo. But we don't know what the risk profile is, and parents are allowed to ask that question.
Mr.
the
Kustoff.
science is that it's not simply about choice, it's about whether infants are protected during the most vulnerable period.
Infants are protected. Those
Okay,
at risk
Mr.
are protected.
Kustoff is recognized.
Yeah, they are. How the hell is an infant going to get hepatitis B if the mother doesn't have hepatitis B? Like, what the hell? What are they talking about? I mean, yeah, they probably could get hepatitis B vaccine later on, but why does an infant have to get one? whatever. I'm no doctor. Anyway, Secretary Bobby Kennedy is running circles around the Democrats right now. See, this is the one that I thought that I already... Okay, yeah, so turns out I actually did have it. So I was wanting to play it now, but that's okay. We already saw it, so let's move on. Bombshell from RFK Jr. The Biden administration was systematically shutting out Christian families and becoming foster parents. We already got that one, too. Let's keep on rolling through. President Trump made the biggest one-time investment in rural healthcare in American history. This is from Secretary Kennedy's profile. The Rural Health Transformation Fund puts $50 billion into the communities that need it most. Let's hear it.
President Trump made the biggest investment in rural healthcare in American history, a $50 billion Rural Health Transformation Fund. Right now, Medicaid gives about 7% of its money to rural hospitals, and it's about $20 million a year. Well, we're increasing the flow of federal dollars to rural community health care, an extra $10 million a year. So that's a 50% rise over the next 5 years. President Trump made the biggest investment.
All right, there we go, man. Biggest investment in probably forever. $50 billion. Sizable percentage going to rural communities from the One Big Beautiful Bill last year. And one more from Secretary Kennedy. Thank you, President Trump, for nominating Dr. Erica Schwartz to serve as CDC director. I congratulate Dr. Schwartz and the new CDC leadership team. I look forward to working together to restore trust, accountability, and scientific integrity at the CDC so we can return it to its core mission and make America healthy again. And of course, President Trump's Truth Social. I am pleased to announce the new leadership of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It is my honor to nominate the incredibly talented Dr. Erica Schwartz, MD, JD, MPH, as my director of the CDC. Erica graduated from Brown University for college and medical school and served a distinguished career as a doctor of medicine in the United States military, the greatest and most powerful force in the world, and then served as my deputy surgeon general during my first term. She is a star. I am also pleased to announce the appointment of Sean Slovinsky as the CDC deputy director and chief operating officer, Dr. Jennifer Shuford, MD, MPH, as the CDC deputy director and chief medical officer, and Dr. Sarah Brenner, MD, MPH, as senior counselor for public health to Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. These highly respected doctors of medicine have the knowledge, experience, and top degrees to restore the gold standard of science at the CDC, which was an absolute disaster focused on mandates under Sleepy Joe. Together, they will do a tremendous job leading the CDC as we continue to make America healthy and great again. President Donald J. Trump. And he's already in year 2 of his second administration, and we're still going through this whole nomination process. It's stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous. They should have already been nominated like a freaking year ago. All right, Trump. Who's dumber, Tucker Carlson or Joe Kent? So he's throwing punches at Tucker Carlson again and Joe Kent, and I think he gets into a couple others. I believe that maybe Megyn Kelly's mentioned here. Maybe not. Maybe he just focuses on these two. But anyway, he says, who's dumber, Tucker Carlson or Joe Kent? It's very interesting. I met Joe Kent at Dover Air Force Base along with numerous others who had lost their loved ones in war. I said hello to all of the families. Kent horribly lost his wife. Her casket was being brought to Dover along with the rest, although he married again quite quickly, in my opinion. In any event, a number of years later, I noticed the same person was running for Congress in Washington State and lost. I then noticed a couple of years later he was running again and lost. While I didn't know him other than our brief Dover encounter, but feeling sorry for him after the 2 election losses, I told my people, hire him for the White House. Give him a job. Make him feel good. He lost his wife in 2 elections. They did so, and while I rarely saw him, I certainly didn't expect disloyalty, but that's what I got. He was really a sleazebag, and some would say on top of it all, a leaker. I don't know whether or not that was true, but next time, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Kent is a loser, just like Tucker, Candace, Megyn, and the rest of them are losers. You're born that way, low IQ, and there's not a damn thing they're going to be able to do about it. President Donald J. Trump. Yikes. Still getting spicy. Still, lobbing bombs at each other. Because, yeah, there's no doubt that Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, they're all freaking out, too, at President Trump right now because, he dealt that massive Truth Social blow last week, firing directly at them. Candace Owens, too. So I'm sure that they're all just, constantly freaking out at Trump right now because he had some spicy words for him last week. Anyway, moving on, Eric Dougherty, LMFAO Rep. Lauren Boebert, Mike drops Dave Chappelle, melting down at her anti-transgender comments. I think transgenderism is a joke. Let's have a look.
Dave Chappelle.
on Trash TMZ.
He had a lot to say. He had a lot to say the other day. He does not like it when Republicans such as yourself uses transgender jokes as a weapon. And he specifically referenced...
He did.
Used his joke, though. I think transgenderism is a joke.
Well...
I mean, to say that children can be mutilated and castrated...
Dave Chappelle has some great transgender jokes. I mean, come on.
It's disgusting.
Oh. But what he didn't like was the
T's.
fact when I guess on the heels of like his stand-up special, he comes to Capitol Hill, you guys take a photo, and then he says like the moment he walks away, you post it on Twitter and you guys have your arms around each other and then kind of take a jab at the transgender community. I think that's what he was saying.
There was no jab. I was just stating facts. There are two genders.
Oh, okay. Well, that might have been a little dirty.
I know that's your stance on kind of the transgender.
That's a fact. It's not a stance.
Well,
that is proven
But I don't think Chappelle liked being used as a prop, is what he's saying. It's like when you.
Yeah, sounds like that might have been what she did.
Come on, you're a comedian. Be a little tougher, right?
Well, I guess you're saying if you're saying he's a.
Yeah, but Dave Chappelle's pro transgender though.
Yeah.
Trump called me a fat booty Latinx.
I think that was Alex Stein.
So you're basically saying, listen, Chappelle, if you're a public figure, it comes with the territory.
Yeah, people say things about me all the time. Go in my comments section.
Well, I mean, look, it happens.
Do you think I sit at home and cry about it and just wait for NPR to show up and have a counseling session with them?
Well, that's kind of a good question, actually. It's like, if you do get a lot of maybe online harassment, like, how do you deal with that? No person should be, like, able to just, shake that off when it's coming in droves. Like, how do you cope with things like that?
Well, I mean, that's not what defines me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not where I get my value and my worth from. I don't really sit in the comments and read all of that all day.
Well, look, man, that's just the risk that Dave Chappelle has to take when he gets pictures taken with politicians. This isn't related at all, but that does actually remind me, back in the day, Jordan Peterson, he was at a speaking event that he was given, and he took a picture with some guys who had the Kekistan flag. So he was taking a picture with like 3 or 4 other people, as he was taking pictures with lots of people, and somebody had unfurled the Kekistan flag, the Pepe flag, and they got a picture, and then all of a sudden it was posted online. It went somewhat viral. I don't know how crazy viral it went, but it made its rounds on social media, and then all of a sudden the left was calling him an alt-right Nazi and a white supremacist and the whole 9 yards. And Jordan Peterson, he didn't even have any idea what the hell the flag was. He actually didn't even see it because they opened it up in front of him. He was standing behind it, so he didn't even know what the hell they were doing. So, it just sometimes happens. Anyway, so let's see. So it looks like this picture that they took was a long while ago. This was from TMZ back on November 30th of 2023. So this was at least a couple of years ago when they took that picture. At least that's what I found in the few minutes that I was looking. And this from the Vigilant Fox from yesterday. Dave Chappelle calls out Lauren Boebert for exploiting his good faith for political gain. It started when Chappelle was on Capitol Hill and Boebert asked to take a picture with him. Boebert instantly used that picture for something Chappelle says you should never do to a person like me. Here comes Lauren Boebert and she says, "Can I get a picture?" And I'd already taken 40 pictures. I didn't want to say no in front of everybody, but I didn't know the phrase. I respectfully decline. So I just took the picture, and then she posted the picture before I could even get from there to the show and says something to the effect of just 3 people that knew that there's just 2 genders. She instantly weaponized it or politicized it. So I got to the arena and I lit her ass up for doing that, and she should never do that to a person like me. So, I mean, I guess if you want to watch it, I'll repost that if you want to check that out. I didn't intend on, digging through all that, but I figured I'd at least take a look. I went through Lauren Boebert's profile and I didn't see her repost that photo anytime recently. I went as far back as like late March, and I didn't see anything other than TMZ or whoever approached her, whether it was on behalf of TMZ or what have you. And so there was nothing really since then. So it just, kind of trails off from there. But anyway, we'll just go ahead and move right on to the next thing from Red State. Breaking: the Justice Department reportedly investigating sexual assault misconduct allegations versus Swalwell. Eric Swalwell from redstate.com. Let's hope and pray, keep our fingers crossed for no paywall. And I don't think that they do. I think Red State's good. I think we're good to read this. Anyway, a breaking report has exploded this afternoon on the Justice Department being set to announce that it is opening an investigation into allegations by several women that Eric Swalwell, the former California congressman and Democratic gubernatorial candidate, committed acts of sexual assault or sexual misconduct against them. This isn't the first investigation into the allegations. Readers may have read that New York's Manhattan DA's office recently opened an investigation into a sexual assault allegation. On Saturday, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office announced that it has launched an investigation into a sexual assault allegation against Rep. Swalwell, according to multiple outlets. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office said on Saturday it is investigating an allegation of sexual assault against Rep. Eric Swalwell, a day after CNN reported that a former staffer for the congressman accused him of having sex with her when she was unable to consent. In a statement to CNN, the DA's office said, "We urge survivors and anyone with knowledge of these allegations to contact our Special Victims Division." And of course, they give the number. I mean, that's a pretty heavy comment. I mean, like, they make it sound like that he was like attempting to murder people. Anyway, it continued, "Our specially trained prosecutors, investigators, and counselors are well equipped to help you in a trauma-informed, survivor-centered manner." So let's see. The number of women has grown to 5. They got 5 so far. Here's what we know so far. So if you want to dig into the details of the 5 women, there's obviously, this is a link that goes straight to that. And this entire article I'll have linked below. And it goes on to say the Department of Justice is investigating the multiple sexual assault allegations against former California Rep. Eric Swalwell. A source familiar told Fox, within the last few weeks, Swalwell has been accused by 5 different women over the last several years, harassing them and assaulting them. The string of allegations includes that he allegedly drugged and AR'd one woman and sexually assaulted one of his staffers, which have spurred at least 2 local criminal investigations. He's denied all of the allegations, but has admitted to making mistakes. So that's going to be even more problematic because it sounds like he did this in New York, probably happened in Washington, D.C., maybe a couple of instances over in California. So he might be dealing with a number of trials in different states, unless they lob it all together into like one big federal trial. I mean, maybe that's something they might be looking into. I don't know. Let's see. As this is a breaking story, we'll provide more information. Okay, so that's the latest from Red State with Swallows Well. Breaking 911, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is seeking criminal charges related to the 2019 impeachment probe of President Trump. Let's go.
She's pushing for criminal charges for 2 intelligence officials, all this stemming from the 2019 impeachment of President Trump. David Spun is watching that bouncing ball. Explain it to us. David, hello.
Good morning to you both. Right now, we're talking about a criminal referral, not a full-blown investigation, but it may turn into one, and quickly. The DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, sent this referral to the Justice Department. Let's go back to 2019 and the phone call between President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, remember, this was before Russia invaded Ukraine. This happened at the United Nations on the sidelines. Zelensky was a new president of Ukraine, navigating the world
looks different, doesn't he?
Now, he and Trump spoke briefly on the phone
not only
in
the
July
suit.
2019. According to a whistleblower, Trump pressured Zelensky to launch investigations into the Biden family's business dealings in Ukraine, specifically Hunter's involvement in the country. The whistleblower sent the complaint to former Inspector General of the intelligence community, his name Michael Atkinson. He notified Congress. That started the ball rolling, which ultimately led to the impeachment of President Trump in the House. He was never convicted by the Senate or removed from office, but it was a stain on his record. According to the referral reviewed by Fox News Digital, it reads, quote, "I want to refer information that may constitute possible criminal activity in violation of federal criminal law committed by one or more former employees of the intelligence community." Now, Todd Blanche, the man running the Justice Department now that Pam Bondi's gone, will ultimately decide if it's worth pursuing this criminal investigation. If it becomes one, it's unclear how the probe would unfold, given we're in 2026 and we're talking about 2019. Remember, there's a statute of limitations, so it's unclear
of course there is.
What potential charges could come from any of this, if at all. No comment, though, from the DOJ or Mr. Atkinson this morning, but we're going to watch it.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. This is one of, hundreds of scandals that completely just blow Watergate totally out of the water. And now we're dealing with statute of limitations. I mean, look, like Pam Bondi, she could have brought charges, the entire last year, or at least conducted a probe or something. There's got to be mountains of information that they could dig through, or evidence, direct evidence of all of these actors that we're trying to improperly, I think that's a way too light way to put it, impeaching President Trump over a freaking phone call. All right, Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari says, I've introduced articles of impeachment against Pete Hegseth for violating his oath, endangering U.S. service members, and committing war crimes, including attacks on civilians in a girls' school in Minab, Iran. Only Congress can declare war. His actions demand immediate removal. Well, I don't think it was unilaterally Pete Hegseth's decision to engage in a conflict against Iran. It's not a war, it's conflict. And I'm sure that there's been many administrations beforehand who have done the exact same thing. And there's no proof that we even bombed that girls' school anyway. The evidence seems to lean toward the Iranians were the ones that fired a missile and it malfunctioned and fell on the school. But look, we don't know. The Department of War, the Pentagon, they're supposed to be investigating it. I'm sure that they are. I'm not sure if they're really going to get any conclusive information out of it, because I highly doubt Iran is going to allow them to go in there and actually, on the ground in the field investigating the school to, pick up the shrapnel and put the pieces together and see exactly where it came from. No way that's going to happen. So this is the resolution that she filed. Let's see. This resolved that Peter B. Hegseth, Secretary of Defense of the United States, Secretary of War, but of course Democrats don't want to call him that, is impeached. Well, you know what? Actually, that kind of surprises me that she didn't actually use that verbiage, because that would have seemed to have added a little bit of extra drama to this. Is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the Senate. Articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America in the name of itself and of the people of the United States of America against Peter B. Hegseth, Secretary of Defense of the United States, and maintenance and support of its ... House resolution. And yeah, so that's happening. Obviously, don't think that's going to go anywhere, but that's what they're doing. Democrats playing their crazy games. From Nick Sorter, breaking the Democrat War Powers Resolution, which intends to block President Trump from continuing Operation Epic Fury, has failed in the House. 213 to 214, barely failed, actually. A War Powers Resolution also failed in the Senate, as it's just going to keep failing in the Senate, even if somehow it were to cross the finish line in the House and advance to the Senate. Operation Epic Fury, it continues. Yet again, this isn't the first time that they've voted on this. It's probably a half a dozen times at this point. So we'll just have a quick look at this.
On this vote, the yeas are 213, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The concurrent resolution is not adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
So in other words, they're probably just going to keep voting for it over and over again. I think that was probably the closest that they've gotten so far, only one vote away from doing so. Even though, when was the last time that a bomb was dropped on Iran? It had to have been at least a week now, right? I mean, like, there's been a ceasefire in place while they're trying to iron out the details of some agreement between the U.S. and Iran. And President Trump, we're going to get to that in a little bit, but he's teasing the idea of traveling to Pakistan to help broker the finalized deal. So I guess we'll just have to wait on that. Catherine Clark, the Democrat whip in the House, she says House Democrats just passed our bill to extend protections for Haiti temporary protected status holders. They are caregivers, healthcare providers, and small business owners. Yeah, because, temporary doesn't mean anything, right? Essential to the fabric of our country. While GOP chaos ensues, Democrats will keep making progress. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of Haitians that have been here since 2010 for 16 years. Temporary protected status. So they're looking to extend that even further. Not sure what's going to happen in the Senate. Probably not going to pass in the Senate. So I don't know exactly what that would mean. If that means that I guess if it doesn't pass in the Senate, then their temporary protected status is simply revoked and they get deported. I mean, look, that's the way that it should be. Although I would be really, actually, you know what? I think I actually posed that question down here. Yeah, I did. So these Haitians, oh wait, no, never. Oh yeah, here it is. So what percentage of people with temporary protected status return home? An estimate is fine. So I don't know if it's actually going to give me one. Oh yeah, it actually does. So very few temporary protected status holders return home, but well, voluntarily at least. Comprehensive official stats on exact return rates are scarce. TPS is often extended repeatedly for decades, but historical patterns from DHS and USCIS data and analyses show the percentage is extremely low, under 5% in most cases, and closer to 0 to 2% for long-term groups like those from Haiti, El Salvador, Honduras. Most have deep U.S. roots, 20 plus years, jobs, U.S.-born kids, homes, taxes paid, and revert to undocumented status or face removal proceedings instead. Actual repatriations depend on enforcement, not self-deportation. So what the hell is even the point of temporary protected status? I mean, like the word temporary has absolutely no meaning if as soon as they come into the country, they just never leave, because the government just never enforces this temporary protected status by way of ending it eventually. So it's pretty much moot. Like, it's just another way just to bring more and more immigrants into the country. Look, it has good intentions, of course, because like what happened with Haiti and the giant earthquake. And I just honestly just don't understand why they would have, brought hundreds of thousands of them here at a time when the country of Haiti would probably need those people at that point more than ever to help rebuild the freaking country. Like this massive natural disaster happens in the country, and the first thing that happens is that they just yank a sizable portion of the population out of the country. I mean, that doesn't seem, reasonable or logical at all. Not in my opinion. All right, next order, just in, President Trump has launched an attack on communist NYC Mayor Zohran Mamdani, insinuating he may withhold federal funding to the city. Do it, 47. I don't even know if he even has the ability to do that. I mean, I'm sure he can invoke, or sign an executive order or something, but you already know some leftist judge is just gonna instantly, strike it down. Anyway, stop funding the pet projects of a foreign communist, take America's largest city back. Again, not so sure that's going to happen because it doesn't seem like New York City wants the city to be taken back because they voted for Zohran Mamdani. So let's have a look at this.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich.
And
I'm
the rich are
thrilled to
leaving.
announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time
like half the city.
Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate, but who don't actually live here. But even so, they're able to reap the huge financial
how can you
rewards
tax
owning
them if they're not
property in,
residents?
dare I say, the greatest city in the world. And most of the time, these units are sitting empty, since again, they don't actually live here. This is a fundamentally unfair system.
So what do you want to do? Give them to illegal immigrants?
Now, it's coming to an end. This tax will raise at least $500 million directly for the city. It'll help fund things like free childcare, cleaner streets, and safer neighborhoods. As mayor, I believe everyone has a role to play in contributing to our city, and some a little bit more than others. Happy Tax Day, New York.
Yeah, because they don't pay an absolute shitload in property taxes already. So what you're probably going to see is a large wave of properties come up for sale, and they're just going to sell off their properties. Like, why the hell do I even have this $200 million property? Look, a lot of them, I'm sure it's just somewhere to park their money for a period of time, hoping that the value just goes up over a period of time, maybe. I don't even know about all that. I just have a feeling that a lot of these properties, especially if it's not their primary residence, they're probably just going to put them all up on the market. Although if they do put a whole bunch, all of them just sell right away, it's obviously, I would think it'd probably tank the value. Anyway, sadly, Mayor Mamdani is destroying New York. It has no chance. The United States of America should not contribute to its failure. It will only get worse. The tax policies are so wrong. People are fleeing. They must change their ways, and fast. History has proven this stuff just doesn't work. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And yeah, I think he's absolutely right. I think it's just gonna lead to an exodus of the rich out of New York City. And I think the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul or whatever, I'm pretty sure she's already been a bit vocal on that. Saying that, if you keep pushing to tax rich people, out the wazoo, they're going to end up leaving because they've got plenty of money to do exactly that. All right, so I've got another one from Zohran Mamdani regarding Zohran Mamdani. This time it's from the man himself. The violence used by NYPD officers in this video, which we'll check out, is extremely disturbing and unacceptable. Officers should never treat a person this way. The NYPD is conducting a full investigation into this incident. And this is the video in question. This incident was captured by Sinistratum on Instagram and took place on April 14th in Brooklyn at a liquor store on Hoyt and Baltic Street. Brooklyn North narcotics attempt to arrest a suspect who resists arrest when chaos ensues. What do you all think about this incident? Look, I've seen the video. I think they probably should have used tasers. Like that. I'll let you be the judge. We'll check it out. Look. It's 7 minutes. I'll play a minute or so. I'm not going to play this whole 7 minutes. I just now realized it was that long. I thought it was only a minute long, but you know what? Before Before I do anything, I'll repost it. There's a direct link to my profile down in the description. You just click on it. It takes you directly there, and you can just watch it right there if you really want to. Or you could just go to the Sal Greco, and you can check it out over there. But, you know, it's basically the same place. Uh-oh, what happened? There we go. Dude. I had a feeling that dude was going to get cut up by some glass. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Why the hell didn't they cuff him yet, man?
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
Oh, no, yeah, I guess he just wouldn't put his hands behind his back.
Get flat and put your arm behind your back! Get flat! Get flat! All right. Get on your stomach and put your hands behind your back! All right, resist!
All right.
The ambulance!
So, yeah, I think they eventually get him cuffed, yeah.
103.
So anyway, the whole point of the video was like the first 30 seconds when they were just throwing bombs at him. So, I don't know, man. What do you think? Was it too heavy-handed? Was it over the top? Does it cross the threshold into Rodney King territory? I mean, I don't know, man. But they're under investigation, and they're probably going to get arrested, the NYPD. So this probably doesn't send a very good message to those who are looking to get into the NYPD. Another round of NYPD mass resignations in the making. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, that was just an off-the-cuff comment. It's probably a stupid comment, to be honest. So, all right, so we'll move on. Secretary Sean Duffy, Kathy Hochul claimed New York followed the rules when issuing licenses to foreign truck drivers. Wrong. Here's the truth. New York gave licenses to foreigners valid years beyond their work authorizations. That's why today the US DOT is pulling $73 million from Hochul's New York. American families deserve to be safe on the road. And, okay, good. Yeah, I was going to mention that driver's license. I was hoping that I put that in here. Well, we'll get to that next. But in the meantime, let's check this out.
The response from Kathy Hochul in New York was, listen, we didn't do anything wrong. We followed the rules. But the truth is, they actually gave commercial driver's licenses to people who are in the country illegally. And to your point,
yeah, all blue states do.
They all license to someone who might only be legally in the country for another 3 or 4 months. And so this was actually brought up to Kathy Hochul in December. I don't want to pull money from New York. I want to work with New York. I want them to follow the rules in New York. They completely rejected our offer to cooperate. And so that's step one. We pulled $73 million. We pulled that today. And then looking forward, if they don't get into compliance, there's additional tranches of money we can pull. The response.
All right. Well, that's like barely a dent when it comes to New York. But yeah, I mean, like all blue states, they issue driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. And coincidentally, I think in most blue states, certainly I know in California, probably New York, but you know, I'll just stick to California because I know for a fact that if you get your driver's license in the state of California, they automatically register you to vote. And at the same time, all the blue states, especially the ones who do just that, they refuse to release their voter rolls. And it really kind of makes you wonder why. You know, we're not automatically registering illegal immigrants to vote when they get their driver's license. Well, how the fuck do we know that? We don't know that. We just have to kind of assume that, you know, you put 2 and 2 together. That doesn't, you know, seem too crazy to have that assumption that that's exactly what they're probably doing. Secretary Sean Duffy on pulling $73 million in federal highway grants from New York until the state follows our rules and make sure foreign truckers are vetted and qualified. USDOT will not fund Governor Hochul's dangerous anti-American policies, full stop. And so this, let me see if they have a better, a close-up of this image of this driver's license, because it says no name given on the driver's license. It's insane. Yeah, here it is. So I don't know if we could blow it up, make it any larger. No, it looks like that's the largest I can get it. But Yeah, from New York State, and this is supposedly an illegal immigrant, and when he went to get his driver's license, he refused to give his name, so they put on the driver's license, I know it's hard to read, but it says no name given. And not only is that a driver's license, that's a CDL, commercial driver's license, that they issued from, obviously, New York State. So, wow. All right, Senator John Barrasso, illegal immigrants should never be given a driver's license in the United States. That's common sense. Today, I introduced the No Licenses for Illegal Drivers or Truckers Act to require states verify that every person receiving a driver's license prove that they are here legally. And this is insane that they're giving driver's licenses to people who are not even allowed to be here. They were not given permission to come in. They came in illegally, and they're just giving them driver's licenses. It's absolutely ridiculous, dude.
Illegal immigrants should never be given a driver's license in the United States.
Welcome to Clown World, I guess.
It's just common sense. These are people who are here illegally. So today I am introducing legislation to stop states.
I mean, you really think they got insurance too? But a lot of them don't.
And that includes regular licenses as well as commercial driver's licenses. It is time to make it clear that giving state-issued licenses to illegal immigrants is not in the best interest of our nation's safety or our nation's security.
Yep, they want to normalize it. They want to normalize illegal immigration. They're trying to condition you just to be accepting of it.
My legislation does just that, and then it goes further. The bill I'm introducing today, the No Licenses for Illegal Drivers or Truckers Act, it requires states to verify that every person who applies for a driver's license, every single one, including certainly a commercial driver's license, they need to prove that they are in this country legally.
Yep. Well, and of course, in blue states, crime is out of control. But when you look at the actual statistics from the cities, they say, well, the crime is the lowest that it's been in years. Well, it's because they're not enforcing any crimes. You know, whenever they show up, they just keep cutting people loose, keep letting them go. They keep expunging records and dropping charges. So that's why it appears that crime is really low. But when you're there on the ground and you're looking at it from an overall view, no, crime is absolutely out of control. They just want to make it look really good on paper. All right, Katie, USA, happening now. Mary Moriarty has issued 2 warrants to arrest 2 ICE agents for assault and is claiming they can be arrested anywhere in the country. I highly doubt that's the case, but this is what's happening. She's going to start a civil war with these warrants. Minnesota really wants to go to war with the federal government under President Trump. Bring it. The proper federal response needs to happen right now. The DOJ under AG Tactical, America First, U.S. Marine Corps combat vet, I'm not familiar with them, must immediately move to quash these unconstitutional warrants, open an investigation into Moriarty for obstruction of federal law enforcement, and make it crystal clear that no state or local prosecutor gets to order the arrest of federal agents doing their job. It's complete insanity.
Mary Moriarty. Today, our office has charged Gregory Donnell Morgan, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agent, with 2 counts of second-degree assault. There is now a warrant for Mr. Morgan's arrest, which allows law enforcement to arrest him anywhere in the country. Before I address the details of this case, I want to take a moment to talk about the timeline and why a charging decision was reached earlier in this case than in the shooting of Julio Sosa Solis.
They lost their minds,
and the killings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. I know the community is following the decisions of this office very closely, and I want to be transparent on why these situations are developing at different speeds.
How did they even know they got the right guy?
This case followed the typical investigation.
I'm pretty sure the federal government did not release his
for
name.
Cases coming to our office. The Minnesota State Patrol received a 911 call from the victims, who had a gun pointed at them by the driver of a vehicle who pulled up next to them illegally on the shoulder. The State Patrol was able to investigate thoroughly.
Well, there's been no conviction, so you don't know it's truly illegal.
Conduct an interview with him at the Whipple building. After finalizing the investigative case file, the State Patrol submitted the case to our office for potential charges. Virtually none of the obstacles around evidence collection that exist for the January shootings exist in this case. On February 5th, Mr. Morgan was driving illegally on the shoulder of eastbound Highway 62, or the Crosstown, just past the Portland Avenue exit, appearing to attempt to bypass slower traffic. The victim,
they are federal agents.
The victim who is driving briefly moved their vehicle into the shoulder to slow him down.
Is that a federal highway too?
Mr. Morgan was driving a rented SUV with no markings or other features to indicate that it was an ICE vehicle.
Yeah, that's what the federal government does. They've always done that.
Moved back into the legal lane, Mr. Morgan sped up to pull alongside the victim's vehicle. Mr. Morgan then visibly slowed his vehicle to match the pace of the victim's vehicle, opened his window, and pointed his duty weapon directly at both victims in the other vehicle while continuing to drive illegally on the shoulder.
You mean while the suspects were fleeing and eluding law enforcement?
Passenger in the victim's vehicle.
Of course, you don't want to mention that, though.
By Mr. Morgan's actions. The driver called 911 while the passenger began to video the SUV when it pulled into the lane.
Of course, that's what leftists always do. Whenever law enforcement is pursuing them, they always call 911.
State Patrol investigators conducted a voluntary interview with Mr. Morgan and his partner, who had been in the back seat of the rented SUV at the time of the incident. During the interview, Mr. Morgan admitted
if this has nothing to do with Alex Preddy or Renee Good, why the hell did she even mention them?
And he and his partner were headed to the Whipple building to end their shift. Additionally, he admitted that he drew his firearm after the victim's vehicle had already rejoined the normal flow of traffic, corroborating details from interviews with the victim. The State Patrol retrieved video of the incident from highway cameras, which is also consistent with the details of the interviews. We have charged Mr. Morgan with 2 counts of second-degree assault, 1 count for each victim for threatening the victims with a dangerous weapon. Second-degree assault
His duty
with
weapon?
a gun has a presumptive sentence of 36 months in prison. Mr. Morgan's conduct was extremely dangerous.
See, they're trying to set a precedent.
Pointing a weapon out of your moving vehicle at the victims who were in another moving vehicle could have led to yet another disastrous incident.
Yeah, but
in
it didn't.
A community that has already suffered too.
Yeah, because city police never do this, though, right?
I want to thank the Minnesota State Patrol for their investigative work on this case and for submitting it to our office for charging consideration.
Okay, well, that's the games that they're playing. I guess we'll end up seeing what happens with that. I highly doubt that that's going to end up ultimately going anywhere, but I suppose they could try. All right, so Mike Davis, it's illegal and dangerous for state officials to arrest federal officers for doing their jobs. This could lead to a deadly standoff where federal officers deploy deadly force. The state officials could face charges for obstruction, conspiracy, harboring, and felony murder. Yeah, you see how that can escalate pretty quickly because the federal government will come crashing down on that local law enforcement agency, I would assume, or department, or whoever's going to try to enforce this. So that might get quite spicy really quick. And anyway, let's move on to Tom Emmer. What is Steve Simon hiding? Turn over the voter rolls. And from Brian Steele, he says 3 days ago, a non-citizen was charged with illegally voting in Minnesota. Today, I have the Minnesota Secretary of State in front of my committee to answer our questions. Not a citizen charged with voting in Minnesota in 2024 election after admitting a mistake to investigators. The charges come as Republicans push voter ID legislation against Democratic pushback that non-citizen voting is rare. Well, yeah, I mean, like convictions are rare because they try in any possible way that they can to hide it. That's why they don't release their voter rolls, because they don't want, like this cascading number, this massive snowball effect of countless thousands, maybe even tens, could be even hundreds of thousands of people who are not only illegals who could be potentially voting, but people who are voting 2, 3, 4 times, using previous addresses to obtain multiple ballots. Maybe it's not the individuals. Maybe they don't even know that their ballots have been sent off to 5, 6, 7 different addresses they used to live at. And those ballots are probably being harvested because in blue states, it's illegal to harvest ballots by third-party individuals. I think the only thing that's not legal with regard to that, I don't believe that they can charge or accept money or pay money for ballots, things like that. Although they totally do, because I remember seeing that back during the 2024 election over here on the X platform. There was a video of an individual that went to some senior citizen building. I think it was in Minnesota. They were paying each resident $10 to collect their ballots, and that's a big no-no. I don't know if they were charged for it. I somehow doubt it. All right. And Stephen Chung says, this is like the holy trinity of woke, liberal, out of touch, perverse ideology from scumbag Gavin Newsom. From Christopher F. Rufo, breaking: Gavin Newsom's office has confirmed that California is giving free sex change surgeries to homeless illegal aliens. Okay, they're doubling down and inexplicably suggesting that without state-funded breast implants and artificial vaginas, migrants will die in the streets. Undocumented Californians don't get special treatment. Everyone on Medi-Cal gets the same access to care. If you want to call California woke for not letting politicians interfere with doctors or not wanting people to die in the streets, then go ahead. Assistant Deputy Director of Communications, the Office of Governor Gavin Newsom. They have lost their minds, absolutely lost their minds over in California. Absolutely crazy. Laura Loomer, here's a scoop following my viral tweet and report about how illegal aliens have been working at the USPS, where they are handling the mail, which means they will have access to mail-in ballots ahead of the 2026 midterms. The USPS sent out a correspondence today to all of their suppliers titled Non-Domiciled CDL Drivers, prohibiting non-domiciled CDL operators from transporting mail under the Postal Service contracts or ordering agreements. The letter was sent by Peter Rout Solius, the acting chief logistics officer and executive vice president at USPS. He reports to the position of deputy postmaster general, chief operating officer, and chief human resources officer. Peter Rout Solius wrote, quote, effective May 1st, 2026, non-domiciled CDL operators may not transport mail under Postal Service contracts or ordering agreements unless they have been screened and badged by the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, or USPIS. Suppliers must ensure that any driver assigned to Postal Service work has satisfied all applicable screening and clearance requirements before performing service. It is the supplier's responsibility to provide the required forms and information for clearance processing. For questions regarding screening requirements, documentation, or driver eligibility, suppliers should contact their designated administrative official, AO, who is responsible for obtaining screening information and verifying eligibility for highway transportation contractor personnel. USPS equals Loomered. See letter below. So we already read the letter, but that's the letter. And looks like an image of Peter Rout Solius, acting chief logistics officer and executive vice president for the U.S. Postal Service. Midterm election integrity update. Did you know illegal aliens are being employed by the USPS and could be handling your mail-in ballots in 6 months? As midterms loom, the media and political establishment are suspiciously silent about one of the Biden administration's most disastrous legacies, the collapsing USPS. Postmaster General David Steiner, who was handpicked by all 6 of Joe Biden's appointed USPS Board of Governors, has proven to be a spectacular failure in the role. He has openly admitted that under his watch, the USPS is barreling toward insolvency and could run out of cash in less than 12 months, leaving Americans without reliable mail service if nothing changes. Anyway, the overhyped Delivering for America plan rolled out in 2021 promised revolutionary improvements, including 95% on-time delivery and breaking even operationally. Instead, it has been an embarrassing disaster of broken promises, plunging service standards, and reckless mismanagement. Rather than hiring qualified American drivers with proper credentials, Steiner's USPS relied on shady middlemen brokers who funneled routes to unvetted non-American drivers who often lacked drug tests, English proficiency, or even proof of citizenship. Yeah, probably because they were paying them rock-bottom bare minimum wage. Probably even lower than that. Probably cash only under the table. There's even reports of some of the drivers being illegal aliens. This dangerous cost-cutting scheme has put sensitive mail, including upcoming mail-in ballots, at serious risk in the hands of unreliable operators who can misplace ballots or even deliberately destroy them. With midterm elections approaching and no sign of the Save America Act being passed, Steiner's incompetence is setting the stage for potential chaos and election fraud. I'm talking about delayed ballots, lost votes, and widespread distrust in the electoral process that the majority of Americans already distrust. This is gross negligence from a postmaster general who has utterly failed to secure America's mail, protect American jobs, and stabilize America's mail institution. I'm not sure why the 6 Biden-appointed USPS Board of Governors haven't been removed by President Trump, but this needs to happen soon. It's alarming to think that illegal alien drivers at USPS could be responsible for delivering mail-in ballots in 6 months. This is a crisis that threatens the integrity of our elections. Postmaster General David Steiner should resign. I somehow doubt that he's going to, but we got a short clip here.
Do you know how many of the drivers who haul mail for USPS are using non-domiciled CDLs?
To my knowledge, at this point, none.
Do you know if it's a lot or just a few?
None.
So from what I'm hearing from mail processing centers, there's been quite a few. In fact, I've heard from several large ones who have said something to the extent about half of the drivers who are coming to pick up mail appear to be non-domiciled, that they typically don't even speak English. I've heard that over half of them don't speak English. There's been suggestions that many of them are perhaps illegal aliens. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not sure where that information comes from, but
it's coming from major mail processing facilities.
That probably wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, what? That wouldn't surprise you? What? So why aren't you looking into that? I mean, why is that even something that could even possibly happen? Look, I know the post office, they've been hemorrhaging money for probably decades at this point, but that's not the way they should be going about saving money. Especially when these contractors who are hiring these potential illegal immigrants to deliver, they're paying them next to nothing so they can just keep more money for themselves, whatever amount of the contract that they're getting from the USPS. All right, from Daily Wire, make her a lesbian. Lefty lawyers caught coaching migrants on being gay to gain asylum. So this is from the Daily Wire. Actually, it might actually paywall me. Uh-oh. Maybe I think it might, but I don't know. We'll see where it goes. So let's see. Legal advisors have been telling migrants from Muslim countries to pose as gay to be granted asylum in Britain, with some lawyers going as far as coaching migrants on how to fabricate photos and come up with their own backstories, the BBC reported on Wednesday. Okay, well, I thought this was happening here in the U.S., so it doesn't really pertain to the swamp at all. The BBC's undercover investigation revealed how legal advisors are raking in cash by helping migrants from Pakistan and Bangladesh apply for asylum by claiming to be gay, which would put them at risk from persecution or of persecution in their home countries. One BBC reporter went undercover to a meeting organized by a group that claims to support gay and lesbian asylum seekers. Around 175 people attended the meeting put on by Worcester LGBT, but it appeared that none of them actually identified as lesbian or gay. Okay, well, anyway, that's happening over in the UK. It doesn't appear to be happening here, although that I don't think that would shock anybody if that were happening here as well. Well, probably not happening under the Trump administration, but sure as hell was probably happening previous to that. Secretary Markwayne Mullin, he's the new Department of Homeland Security Secretary. We have one objective: protect the homeland. Democrats' refusal to fund DHS is becoming a serious threat to both the mission and our homeland. Enough is enough.
I don't care if you live in California. I don't care if you live in Florida. I don't care if you live in New York or in Oklahoma. We look at all the states the same, not in color based on how you vote. It's protect the homeland. And what they are trying to do here, Joe, is defund the Department of Homeland. We want to make sure people understand we're here working for the people, not against you. So we have 200, actually it's over 300 cases working right now, and child trafficking. And we can only work a handful of them because we had these employees furloughed because the Democrats are refusing to fund Department of Homeland Security. And it's putting mission at risk.
Is the threat from Iran overblown?
No, the threat is not overblown, Kelly, at all. Unfortunately, our adversaries are not shut down while Department of Homeland is shut down. When you start talking about the real threats that are facing the homeland that's coming from the Middle East, it is real. I don't care if you're living...
Yeah, it is real, and it's happening. Homeland Security, unfortunately, our adversaries are not shut down while the Department of Homeland Security is shut down. Democrats must stop playing politics with our national security.
No, the threat is not overblown, Kelly, at all. Unfortunately, our adversaries are not shut down while the Department of Homeland is shut down. And we took several Democrat members in the Senate. We've also offered to do this in the House and had a TSSCI level briefing. And we were very straight, laying out the true threats that are facing not just the homeland, but actually individual members of Congress at this point, too. And we did this before they went on their 2-week, I like to say, work period when they're back home. I know people say recess, but I can tell you as a former member, you work when you're back in your state. Before they went on, we had a very in-depth conversation.
Shake hands with all your constituents.
Every day, cybersecurity is being attacked from not just the infrastructure of the United States, but also the intellectual properties of individuals. And we're at a bare minimum in CISA. When you start talking about the real threats that are facing the homeland that's coming from the Middle East, it is real. And mind you, we are 60 days out from FIFA, which is the World Cup. That is going to be the largest largest event that the United States arguably has ever hosted. And then coming up behind that is the 2028 Olympics. But we're expecting 5 million people coming into the United States. That's going to be working in 11 different cities. We're going to host 73 games, basically 73 Super Bowls in 40 days, which is unbelievable, the amount of work, and the threats are real.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a logistical nightmare, especially if the Department of Homeland Security is not adequately funded, for crying out loud. Secretary Mullin, Democrats don't just want to defund ICE, they want to defund the border. Time to negotiate is done.
That even if we were to fund ICE and CBP, which once again I don't understand, Joe, why they're not just talking about defunding ICE agents. Now they're wanting to defund the border, which means that these individuals,
of course
they don't want
open
to
the floodgates.
Anybody here illegally, and they want open borders.
That's what they want.
The Democrats are at this point. So what we've said is, with the help of President Trump, is fine. We're going to take this off the table so you don't shut us down again September 30th. We're going to fund the other 20 agencies that fall underneath the Department of Homeland Security, and we're going to take the 2 agencies that they are most contentious about, and we're going to fund those for 3 years through
reconciliation.
So
but what after 3 years?
Negotiate is done. We tried to.
They just won't fund them after 3 years, probably.
We're just going to continue
especially Democrats take over.
Laws that Congress has in place and make sure we're always holding up the Constitution of the United States.
Well, that's what I got a big problem with. If they're splitting them up with regard to funding, yeah, it sounds great that they're going to get 3 years worth of funding right off the bat. However, what about after 3 years when it comes up for renewal? Because they've already separated those 2 agencies from funding from DHS as a whole under the umbrella. And it sounds like in 3 years, Democrats take over. They're probably just going to just sunset those 2 agencies, and they'll open up the floodgates, and here we go. And do you think the cost of living was bad under Biden? Shit's going to get way worse if they just open up the border and millions and tens of millions more pour in, because they all got to live somewhere. They all got to consume electricity. They all got to consume, like, all of our utilities. They all got to eat. So, of course, our food's going to go way up. Everything's going to go up in cost. That's what tends to happen, which is exactly what did happen under the Biden administration. I don't care if you live in California. I don't care if you live in Florida. I don't care if you live in New York or Oklahoma. We look at all the states the same, not in color based on how you vote. It's protect the homeland.
Our ICE agents, in fact, all the Department of Homeland, what our goal is every single day, Joe, is to protect the homeland. I don't care if you live in California. I don't care if you live in Florida. I don't care if you live in New York.
Yeah, they had massive operations here in Florida. ICE did.
It's the same, not in color.
They rounded up tens of thousands of people.
Protect the homeland. And what they are trying to do here, Joe, is defund the Department of Homeland. Now, that's like defunding the Department of War. Department of War takes care of everything off our shores. Department of Homeland takes care of our backyard, and it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say historically, a lot of people, probably not Democrats, but I would assume that a lot of conservatives would be all about that, historically speaking, because small government, yeah, sure, let's just start purging entire departments in the government. That way we can start to tackle the national deficit nightmare and try to rein in our federal government. Small government, that would certainly be nice. I think that's what a lot of people would like to see. And the Department of Homeland Security, it started after 9/11, I think. I think that's when they first started Homeland Security. So for 95% of our country, we didn't even have Department of Homeland Security. But somehow we were able to still keep the country secure. I don't know. I don't have the answers for everything. I think that they would probably have some sort of a contingency plan if that were to happen, but not under Democrats. They would just simply get rid of it and just let shit spiral wildly out of control. AAG Harmeet Dillon, and she is the assistant AG at the Justice Department, heading up the Civil Rights Division. And this Justice Department will not tolerate anti-Semitic harassment of students at any level of education. The Civil Rights Division at the DOJ is on it. Justice Department announces a settlement to combat anti-Semitism in Massachusetts school district. This week, the Justice Department and Concord Carlisle, Massachusetts School District, entered into a voluntary settlement agreement to ensure the district appropriately responds to incidents of anti-Semitic harassment of students by their peers. The settlement agreement resolves the department's investigation under Title IV of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, at least I think that, yeah, that's a 4, regarding complaints of harassment based on religion, race, and national origin. Quote, the department will not tolerate anti-Semitic harassment of students at any level of education, said Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division. School districts, like colleges and universities, must take prompt and effective action to address anti-Semitic harassment when it creates a hostile environment for Jewish students and must keep taking action until Jewish students are once again safe and welcomed at their school. Between 2023 and 25, a series of anti-Semitic incidents occurred at both the high school and middle school levels in the district. These incidents included the repeated drawing of swastikas and the use of Jew as a derogatory term by other students against Jewish students. And I'm sure this is an extremely blue area. Yeah, these aren't alt-right conservatives. These aren't, well, I'm sure that they're probably white supremacists, but by and large, or the vast majority, I would surely assume are probably over on the left, not on the right. But anyway, after the department opened its investigation in March 2025, the district adopted reforms and initiatives to combat anti-Semitism and address the issues caused by these incidents, including working with stakeholders and providing additional training to its employees on handling anti-Semitism incidents. The department commends the district for its cooperation with the department's investigation and for entering into this settlement agreement. The department also thanks the Anti-Defamation League, the Louis D. Brandeis Center for Human Rights Under Law, Mayor Brown, and their clients for filing a complaint and for their assistance with the department's investigation. And if you want to read the rest of that, it'll be below if you want to check it out. The link. Steve Scalise, Democrats want your tax cuts gone. They want your money back in Washington to fund fraud. Americans are finally getting relief, and we're not letting Democrats take it away. We're going to keep fighting for hardworking American families.
And let me tell you,
on C-SPAN,
because the Democrats are clamoring to get the majority back today. The
Democrats
have already said if they get the majority this November, they will reverse the working families tax cut. They will take that money away
they'll roll
from
everything
you.
back.
Are we going to let that happen? No way. Americans are.
Well, y'all better start passing some shit then.
Republican leadership is done. They don't want to go back. They don't want to
Save
give
America
that $4,300 that's working for their family
of course, that's
back
in the
to
Senate.
Washington to fund fraud in Minnesota and California and other places. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to keep fighting for the hardworking people of this great country.
All right. I don't know, man. I would say the midterms. Look, on one hand, the midterms, in my opinion, are almost like at a toss-up or a coin toss at this point, which I just cannot even fathom that even being the case with how deranged and just the lunacy that Democrats most have been engaged in recent years. But on the other hand, like I mentioned just the other day, the assassination of Charlie Kirk that led to 3 million people unregistering as Democrats. And not to say that they became registered Republicans. Most of them probably didn't. They probably just didn't register to any party. They just deregistered as Democrats. But I would assume that would be like a resounding sign that they're going to get 3 million fewer votes than they did before that happened. Not to mention the assassination attempt against Trump in 2024 and just a whole bunch of other scandals and all kinds of shit that's been going on in recent years. I just cannot fathom how this would even be a close competition at this point. But it is. It really is. I guess the propaganda game, it just works. The whole brainwashing and turning all of their people in blue states into a bunch of just obedient NPCs, useful idiots, I guess. It's really unfortunate. All right, Secretary Brooke Rollins proud to announce that USDA officially launched a new Office of Seafood. The Office of Seafood. Fishermen are food producers, just like our farmers and ranchers. For too long, I got rid of it. That's all right, we'll get it back. All right, for too long, where are we at? For too long, they've been overlooked. That ends today. This new office opens full access to USDA programs, grants, loans, risk management tools, and food purchases while driving unprecedented coordination with Secretary Lutnick and NOAA to restore American seafood competitiveness. I had such an amazing roundtable yesterday hearing directly from fishermen alongside Secretary Burgum, Howard Lutnick, Senator Dan Sullivan, and Kat Kamek, U.S. Congresswoman representing Florida District 3, and seafood producers from Maine to Alaska to the Gulf of America. Our farmers of the sea now have the recognition and support they deserve. This is what putting rural and coastal America first looks like. And she shared some images of that roundtable where some members of the Trump administration, some of the cabinet members were there. and they were going over the new USDA Office of Seafood. So the government just got a little bit bigger, I guess. So, I mean, look, at least they're adequately represented, I suppose. I don't know why they couldn't just like bring that underneath. I don't know. I don't know why they'd have to like have a whole separate department. Well, it's not a whole separate department. It's still under the USDA. I find it interesting they didn't go over any of the numbers, though. I mean, how much is this going to cost? But that's all right. You gotta account for the fishermen. Department of Agriculture, thank you to the early adopters of the Product of USA label, the new standard for meat, poultry, and egg products derived from animals exclusively born, raised, harvested, and processed in the United States. Join the movement and proudly display the label on your American-made products. So we've got the new Product of USA label with the American flag at productofusa.gov. And tastes like freedom. Product of USA, clear standards for origin claims on meat, poultry, and egg products. Let's see how long this is. If it's short enough, I'll play it. Yeah, it's only a minute long. Why not?
It means a standard. An American standard.
It means it was born here, raised here, processed here.
It means the healthiest food for a healthier future.
If you're going to use the American flag,
it better be American.
From start to finish, supporting American farmers, ranchers,
and producers.
This is what America looks like.
Built on grit, backed by the people who live it.
From generation
to generation.
There's no faking the standard, because when you see this label,
it means exactly what it says.
Born here, raised here,
processed here,
from the land of the free. Product of USA.
Right. It's got me craving some Marlboro Reds, man. I'm sure that was obviously the opposite intention. I don't know why, but that's got that on the mind now. All right, so that'll be linked, obviously. And we'll just roll on to the next. Let's see what else we got. Secretary Brooke Rollins, American ranchers and families deserve better. And unlike the Biden administration, we are actually delivering. The Biden administration cared so little about our producers that they kicked Product of USA implementation down the road to January 1st of 2026. And they never planned any real public awareness campaign to promote it or encourage producers to adopt it. We refuse to kick the can down the road any further. Product of USA finally means exactly what it says: beef, poultry, pork, and processed egg products born, raised, slaughtered, and processed 100% in America. The loophole is now closed. No more imported products being repackaged and passed off as American. Oh, so that's what they were doing. This protects rural America, restores real consumer confidence, and puts American agriculture first again.
Thank you so much. The Product of the USA, and again, started before us. These conversations happened in the last administration, but there had never been any rulemaking on it. And so what we did is ensure that for a long time, you've been able to say you're a product of the USA if you're processed, if your cattle are processed in America, but not raised in America. And that was the massive loophole that we closed that previous administrations have not been willing to close. There's a lot of lobby pressure to not close that loophole.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Obviously, for the international
probably
corporations,
relentless.
That's a really big deal. And the research shows that if you claim you're a product of the USA, that our customers will obviously gravitate, even for a little more money, will want that product. So we closed that loophole. So now, to be able to say you're a product of the USA,
Absolutely.
You've got to be born here, raised here, processed here, and harvested here. And that was the big change. Thank you so much. The Product of the USA, and again, started before process.
All right, my mouse died. Okay, all right, so we'll move on to Secretary Scott Turner with Housing and Urban Development. He says 40% of opportunity zones are in rural areas, thanks to the president's Working Families Tax Cuts, OZs. Opportunity zones, duh. They're expanding to revitalize these rural distressed communities. Under the Trump administration, HUD is bringing new life to all communities, urban, rural, and tribal.
Bill, and its enhanced focus on rural areas.
Absolutely. You know, being here in Florida and West Palm and Palm Beach, you know, we were here a year ago. And I've been here many times, in particular for Opportunity Zone sites and projects, Uni Towers last year. I visited a $61 million project with 250 units of affordable housing, which could not have happened unless it was for opportunity zones.
It's a lot of money for affordable housing. So now you see with the One Big Beautiful Bill and opportunity zone policy becoming permanent, it's projects like Uni Tower and others around our country
that now have the opportunity to even become better, new projects, existing projects. And the beautiful thing I like about this is that the Opportunity Zone Initiative will outlast us. You always want to do something not just for legacy purpose, but to do something that outlasts you, that will be a benefit, if you will, for those that are coming behind you. And that's how I see the Opportunity Zones. When you look at the rural aspect of Opportunity Zones now with a 30% step up in basis, we want to concentrate on urban, tribal, but we really want to concentrate more on the rural aspect of our country, because 30% step up in basis is one thing, but 40% of Opportunity Zones are in rural areas.
Yeah.
And so when you think about
sure they get overlooked all the time.
You think about new entrepreneurs, you think about housing, multifamily, single family, duplex, manufactured housing. The rural aspect of this is something that I want to communicate to our country, investors, entrepreneurs around, to not lose focus of our rural communities, because we can literally build ecosystems, if you will, inside of our rural communities to keep that next generation there so they can live, work, and play in those beautiful towns and cities around our country. And so I'm very excited with the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah, and like one issue that I have with affordable, this whole affordable housing initiative is that it virtually completely cuts out the middle class. Like, if you're in the middle class, you really have no access to any of this because you just make too much money. Even though every day that goes by, the middle class is being squeezed just more and more, and it's like, I would say probably most people who are in the middle class could really use the help with regard to affordable housing, but we just don't have access to it because we just make too much money. So it's really unfortunate. Because, like, look, if you're making, like, it doesn't seem all that fair if you're making, like your household income is like $35,000 a year or maybe $40,000 a year, and you can not only qualify for a house, an actual house in your name, but you're also getting a massive leg up from the federal government. Whereas someone who's making like $60,000 or $70,000 a year, I mean, they're struggling. Obviously not financially as hard as somebody only making $40,000 a year, but it just, I don't know, man. Broken system, at least in my opinion. I think it's a bit of a broken system, especially now that housing has essentially doubled over the last 5-6 years. Undersecretary of War Anthony J. Tata, he says, today we're sharing the story of another resilient warrior who was negatively impacted by the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Tiffany Murillo, Sergeant 3 or STG. It's not Sergeant 3. I don't know the military lingo. Anyway, Murillo, a sonar technician and surface, was involuntarily separated in March of 2022 after refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Following the release of Executive Order 14184, she worked with her local recruiting station and the U.S. Navy COVID-19 reinstatement cell to pursue reinstatement and return to service. With support from these teams and under the leadership of the Secretary of War and Secretary of the Navy, she was reinstated as an STG-2 in February of 2026 with nearly 4 years of service credit and back pay, and was assigned to her duty station of preference. STG-2 Murillo shared, quote, "I want to thank everyone for this opportunity to be a part of the greatest Navy in the world. I'm proud that I'm able to serve my country once again. Welcome back to the fleet, STG-2 Murillo." And there you go. So I'm assuming that is her on the right, taking her oath again, getting reinstated with 4 years of back pay, man. Talk about a good day. So, yeah, I definitely feel for her because I refused to get the COVID vaccine myself. I didn't even get a COVID test. I got none of it. Even though I know that I got COVID twice, just because, I'm around loved ones every day. So, they got COVID. So I know once they got it and then I just suddenly got really sick a few days later, I probably got COVID too. I think it was Delta and Omicron and Omnicore. All right, so let's move on to U.S. Central Command. We'll get into some of the Iranian stuff. I didn't want to lead with this because I keep leading with the Iran conflict, even though it's huge news. I mean, we've got the Strait of Hormuz shut down, for crying out loud. I mean, that's not something that happens very often at all. But I don't want to lead with like the same thing over and over again. That's why I wanted to start with like some of the typical swamp affairs like the USDA and like education and Homeland Security and stuff like that. So, just trying to change things up a little bit here and there. Anyway, this morning, Admiral Brad Cooper from the CENTCOM commander addressed the media at the Pentagon during a briefing on the blockade against ships attempting to enter or exit Iranian ports. He highlighted his most recent trip to the Middle East, where he visited with U.S. service members and engaged regional allies and partners.
Well, good morning, and Mr. Secretary, thank you for the kind invitation, and Chairman, great to join you. It's a real honor to be here representing the more than 50,000 American service members deployed throughout the Middle East today, supporting operations.
Damn, dude, look at all those ribbons.
It's great to have the opportunity to
like
highlight
halfway
the tremendous
down his jacket.
efforts our warfighters operating forward and the important partnerships with regional allies that continue to thrive. In fact, yesterday I returned from my second trip to the Middle East in the past 15 days. Two very different visits, one during our offensive operations against Iran, and the second in this most recent trip during the ongoing ceasefire. Very different. During both of my recent trips, I visited with our troops who were deployed across the region in more than 70 different locations, in a distance that largely spans between Florida and Arizona. I've long believed that every success that we have starts and ends with our people, and boy does this shine through brightly. During these visits, I had the privilege of personally recognizing more than 100 servicemen and women for their extraordinary valor, their courage, and their initiative under fire and delivering fire. And every time I interact with these young men and women downrange, I am deeply inspired by their courage, their resilience, and their unwavering commitment. The stories are remarkable. In many cases, you've seen this play out over TV. Fighter pilots who took out Iranian missile launchers in the moments prior to their launch against Americans and our partners, and who hit key military targets in and around Tehran on the attack more than 13,000 times.
Yeah.
I met with some of the teams that helped to bring our F-15 airmen home safely from Iran and heard first-person accounts.
Yeah, when they rescued the F-15 pilots, I bet that really boosted morale.
With our troops who are employing cutting-edge tactics and technology for the first time in warfare. I won't be able to talk about what those are, but these young men and women are breaking new ground. It's incredibly inspiring. I met with teams who launched our own one-way attack drones into Iran. These were originally Iranian-designed drones. We brought them back to America, took the guts out, put a Made American stamp on them, and fired them right back to Iran. Very effective.
Oh, wow.
I met with teams who were employing AI every single day to help us sift through vast amounts of information to help us make decisions faster. And importantly, humans are always in the loop in this process. I met with our Space Force teams and our cyber specialists, whose work cannot be discussed, but who serve with indispensable impact. I met with our logisticians and sustainers all over the region. There is just no military that executes logistics like the U.S. military.
Oh yeah,
this
I'm sure
group
nobody
is
comes
doing
close.
Exceptional work, moving thousands of tons every single day. I met with our air defenders who shot down Iranian ballistic missiles. My message for this group in particular is that their actions most certainly saved thousands of lives across the Middle East during Epic Fury. And all told, my personal assessment is, after these couple of trips, is our troops are highly motivated, they're focused, they're vigilant, and they're ready. And they're using this time to do a couple of things. We're rearming, we're retooling, and we're adjusting our tactics, techniques, and procedures.
Reloading.
There's no military in the world that adjusts like we do, and that's exactly what we're doing right now during the ceasefire. A little note about partners.
That'd be a good idea.
My discussion with regional allies and partners, both at the senior civilian level and the senior military level, reinforced our shared commitment to regional security. But beyond that, having now fought together side by side, I assess that our military partnerships are stronger than ever as we continue to maintain a very active defense posture across the region during this ceasefire. And that posture stretches across the entire Arabian Peninsula, and it runs from northern Iraq all the way down into the northern Arabian Gulf. In creating the largest air defense umbrella in the world across the Middle East, we embedded specially trained U.S. military air defenders alongside our partner nation soldiers, side by side, literally side by side. And to give you a sense of their contribution and impact, the King and Crown Prince of Bahrain both personally knew our soldiers by name.
All right.
These leaders expressed appreciation for our service member who continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with our partners in support of regional defense. And this is a sentiment that is widely shared across every Gulf ally. I heard this message over and over again, which is, we stand with you. As the Secretary and the Chairman have said,
good.
Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan have been exceptional teammates. I had a chance to meet with both their senior leadership as well as their troops. Boy, equally inspiring and equally committed to mutual defense. They defended Americans and they defended their own country. It was inspiring.
Nice.
And there's been no better teammate than Israel. Together, the four best air forces in the world, the Israeli Air Force, the U.S. Air Force, and the air forces of the U.S. Navy and U.S. Marine Corps, together met and exceeded our own military objectives over and over again. Twice in the past 2 weeks, I've met with the Israeli Chief of Defense to ensure that we remain closely aligned, and we do. And then finally, let me just close by saluting the brave men and women who are in uniform and who continue to answer the call with unrivaled lethality, great teamwork, and resolve. We've asked them to stay ready during this period, and that's exactly what they're doing. I couldn't be prouder, and I know that you and the American people share in that same pride. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, sounds like a good update. Sounds like a good news. Sounds like morale is up high, and the ceasefire seems to be holding for now. And what else do we got? We got this from General Dan Kane, Chairman General Dan Kane, Joint Chief of Staff on the heroic forces enforcing the blockade of Iran. So we'll have a listen to what he's got to say.
Before I turn it over to Admiral Cooper, I want to talk briefly today about the men and women enforcing the blockade, America's sailors and Marines, and today particularly our destroyer and surface forces. When we talk about an American destroyer, it's important that you and the American people understand their capabilities. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer are the backbone of the United States Navy surface fleet. Over 500 feet long, they displace 9,000 tons, and it is the sports car of the United States Navy.
Hell yeah.
From the keel to the mast, they stand nearly 10 stories tall, and their 4 gas turbine engines can drive the ship at 30-plus knots. These ships are armed to the teeth with surface-to-air missiles, land attack cruise missiles, anti-ship missiles, anti-submarine rockets, torpedoes, 5-inch naval guns, multiple electronic warfare systems, embarked helicopters, extending the reach and capability of each and every one of these destroyers. But far and away, the most important weapon on board these ships is the American sailor. Over 300 warfighters are the heart and soul of these warships. At sea, sometimes for months, and these ships out in the CENTCOM AOR have been out there for months. They operate around the clock in a constant state of readiness, always delivering for our joint force. It's hot in the engine room. The engineering team keeps the lights on and the ship powered and able to respond to the orders from the bridge. On that bridge, our sailors maintain a constant watch, maneuvering the ship tactically and safely through always congested water space. And there is a lot out there. It is like driving a sports car through a supermarket parking lot on a payday weekend with thousands of kids in that parking lot as you attempt to maneuver through there to get to that ship that would attempt to run that blockade.
Good grief.
Down in the Combat Information Center, the CIC, the Tactical Warfare Center of the ship, that is where the decisions are made. As threats appear, these young sailors are making real-time decisions on how to identify these threats and handle them, and they always deliver. These ships are run by the youngest sailors in our surface warfare Navy.
Oh, wow.
The helmsman, the sailor on the watch at the bridge, is normally just between 18 to 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
And they are trusted to drive this warship through that supermarket
Holy shit.
lot without hitting
It's kind of
anything.
badass.
The conning officer, an equally young
Well, you want the ones with the fastest reaction times, right?
Just a few years out of college is the ones that are giving that young helmsman the orders on where to take that American warship to execute the mission that the Secretary and the President has given us. These are incredibly well-trained sailors. They are led by incredible leaders.
Oh, they're only trained by the best.
Leaders and trusted with deep responsibility. And I'm so humbled and proud of America's Navy. These sailors choose to take the road less traveled to go into the historic surface Navy, and they deliver every single day.
All right, well, that's cool. Get your learn on with U.S. naval warships. All right, so the morale among our warriors is very high. This is from DOW Rapid Response.
I would just reiterate my previous comment. Morale is very high. And anyone in the military can take about 2 seconds to figure out what morale looks like by meeting around it with the people. And it is crystal clear. These are motivated young men and women. I had the wonderful privilege of writing a letter early on in the operation to the team forward. And I told them this was going to be a mission of extreme consequence. And serving at a time where you are making a difference, consequential, as the Secretary and the Chairman have described over and over again, is incredibly and deeply meaningful. And I think that's the key part of the drive, as well as being great teammates across the board. It's a privilege to watch.
Well, yeah, man, with a conflict against Iran, I mean, that's been like 47 years in the making. It's kind of a big deal, having a warfare situation break out between us and Iran. All right, so you like to say publicly, Iran, that you control the Strait of Hormuz, but you don't have a Navy or real domain awareness. You can't control anything. Of course, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth.
You like to say publicly, Iran, that you control the Strait of Hormuz, but you don't have a Navy or real domain awareness. You can't control anything. To be clear, threatening to shoot missiles and drones at ships, commercial ships that are lawfully transiting international waters, that is not control. That's piracy. That's terrorism. The United States, you like to say publicly.
Okay. So I got another one from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. If Iran chooses poorly, then they will face a blockade and bombs dropping on infrastructure, power, and energy.
If Iran chooses poorly, then they will have a blockade and bombs dropping on infrastructure, power, and energy.
Oh, yeah, man, we got all that in place, too.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and our friends over at Treasury are launching Operation Economic Fury as well, maximizing economic
Talked about that
pressure
last night.
Across the entirety of the government. To Iran, choose wisely. But if Iran chooses...
So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely could be quite consequential to have not only the full blockade in place, but also... You got to be firing more missiles at him, as they've already been hit like 13,000 times. And I think that's just from the U.S. side. I don't think that even includes Israel, how many they've been dropping. I mean, we're probably talking, 25, 30,000 targets that have been hit, potentially. All right, to the American media, I just can't help but notice the endless stream of garbage, the relentlessly negative coverage that you cannot resist peddling, and so on. We'll hear from Pete Hegseth.
Speaking of choosing wisely, a note to the press corps, to the American media.
The fake news media.
As I just can't help but notice the endless stream of garbage, the relentlessly negative coverage, you cannot resist peddling. Despite the
it's almost pro-Iran.
And important success of this effort and the success of our troops. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what side some of you are actually on. It's incredibly unpatriotic. This same press corps, not this exact same press corps, but at least an older press corps, bent over backwards during the Biden administration to explain away the disastrous and disgraceful Afghanistan withdrawal. You called it the greatest airlift in American history. It's almost like
I remember that bullshit.
You're cheering only for one side.
That was insanity.
This past Sunday, I was sitting in church with my family.
How many of our service members were killed? 13? I think 13 were killed.
The 3rd chapter. And in the passage, Jesus entered a synagogue and healed a man with a withered hand. The Pharisees came to watch. And as the scripture reads, they came to see whether Jesus, would heal him, or he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. You see, the Pharisees, the so-called and self-appointed elites of their time, they were there to witness, to write everything down, to report. But their hearts were hardened. Even though they witnessed a literal miracle, it didn't matter. They were only there to explain away the goodness in pursuit of their agenda. As the passage ends, the Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel against him, how to destroy him. I sat there in church and I thought, our press are just like these Pharisees.
Uh-oh.
Not all of you, but the legacy Trump-hating press. Your politically motivated animus for President Trump,
rage bait media,
nearly completely blinds you from the brilliance of our American warriors. The Pharisees scrutinized every good act in order to find a violation, only looking for the negative.
Well, the powers that be in the mainstream media, they've got Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, I think it's just that simple. All right. And this is going to be the entirety of that conference, the press conference that happened. And I'll link that. It looked like it was 37 minutes in total. So I'll repost that if you just want to watch the whole thing from start to finish and not just catch the highlights. And again, there's a direct link below to my profile. That's the easiest way you can get to it. Or you can go to x.com and you can go visit DEPT of War. And you can search it that way. It's a little search button there that you can click on and it'll take you there if you search for it. U.S. Central Command. Audio of a sailor aboard USS Michael Murphy, DDG-112, with video from the guided missile destroyer's embarked helicopter flying over the Gulf of Oman as the U.S. Navy diverts a merchant vessel while enforcing the blockade on ships entering or departing Iranian ports. U.S. forces are prepared to sustain the blockade as long as it takes.
Motor Vessel Molly, this is Warship 112. We will be escorting you to your next port of call. Thank you for your cooperation. This is Warship 112, standing by at channel 16. Motor Vessel Molly, this is Warship.
Wow, man, they're locked and loaded. You know, I don't know if they might have like any means to. Oh yeah, I'm sure that they could board the vessel. I'm sure it wouldn't be that difficult at all. I don't know if they'd be landing a helicopter on it. Looks like there'd be plenty of platform for it, but I don't know how those oil tankers work. Okay, so let's move on to Ambassador Mike Waltz. We are seeing historic unity and resolve among our Gulf Arab allies in response to Iran's brutal attacks on civilian sites in their countries. Watch my testimony to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Just a clip of it.
And here's what I absolutely think is backfiring on Iran for the foreseeable future. Our Gulf allies have never been more united. They've had real issue with each other in Yemen, in Sudan, and in other places. But right now, as they get bombarded, Iran could have responded in all kinds of ways. I think some people expected them to perhaps attack our bases in the Middle East. But to launch the hundreds and thousands of drones and missiles into resorts and hotels and civilian neighborhoods and civilian infrastructure is absolutely outrageous. And I was very encouraged to see 135 countries align with Bahrain, align with the GCC, and stand firm to condemn that in international law through the UN Security Council. And
all right. Well, of course, you're not going to hear any of that in the mainstream media. The fact that they're bombing hotels and civilian areas. And we've got one more. 47 years ago, the Iranian regime took Americans hostage as its opening act. Now seeking to hold onto its illegal nuclear program, it has taken the world economy hostage. Russia and China's opposition to freedom of navigation of the strait is a new low and shields the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. Look, I can understand why China would take a pro-Iran approach to this because they're getting the majority of their oil from Iran. And now that the blockade is in place, I don't even know what China's doing about it. I haven't heard anything. I've been looking out to see what the response from China, exactly what they're talking about, what they're doing, what they plan to do with regard to getting their oil, because so much of it comes from Iran, because we're blocking Iran. Nothing's going in or out of the Strait of Hormuz if it's coming from Iran. So let's have a look at this.
The decision of Russia and China to veto a draft resolution that sought to protect freedom of navigation and maritime security in and around the Strait of Hormuz was truly unfortunate. They deliberately chose to turn a blind eye, and worse, chose to permit Iran's attacks on its neighbors, its terror against its own people, and its death grip that it's attempting to place on the global economy. The Council resolution submitted by the Kingdom of Bahrain last week was not unreasonable. They engaged every country on the Security Council. They took their input and their thoughts and reflections on board. It was a simple resolution drafted by and for the region that Iran must stop attacking civilian shipping and the neighboring states in the Gulf, and stop threatening its neighbors, and stop threatening the freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Colleagues, 47 years ago, Iran took Americans hostage as its opening act of its new regime. This year, it's tried to take each of your economies hostage. We, the United States, have chosen to stand with our Gulf allies, both in the region and here in this body. Instead, others vetoed this resolution and have chosen to shield the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism.
Yikes. Yeah, well, that's the United Nations for you. Not really getting a whole lot done, I could imagine. And from U.S. Southern Command, so we're going to check out the western side of the world with Operation Southern Spear on April 15th, just yesterday, at the direction of Southcom Commander General Francis L. Donovan. Joint Task Force Southern Spear conducted a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by designated terrorist organizations. Intelligence confirmed the vessel was transiting along known narco trafficking routes in the Eastern Pacific and was engaged in narco trafficking operations. 3 male narco terrorists were killed during this action. No U.S. military forces were harmed. And yet another one. I think I've played one, every day this week, maybe with the exception of Monday. So they've been cracking down on them still. Going all the way back to last September. They've been taking them out one by one. I'm sure that you could probably measure the number of strikes in the hundreds now of narco-terrorism vessels that they've taken out. And for Speaker Mike Johnson, and he says, here we go again. Congress is voting imminently on whether to reauthorize. Oh no, what happened? Uh-oh. He didn't get rid of the page. What the hell? I don't know, some glitch with X. What the hell's going on? It's weird. All right, I guess I'll just leave it up here. All right, so Congress is voting imminently on whether to reauthorize Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, which President Trump supports. Without reauthorization, the program would expire on April 20th, placing a key anti-terrorism tool in legal limbo. Congress should vote to keep it in place. More from NRO editorial board, and it's an article. This got ratioed because a lot of people are very against FISA because I guess some would say, or maybe they have the legal authority to essentially spy on U.S. citizens. I'm not very knowledgeable about it personally. I just know that I've read that somewhere, that Jim Jordan is 100% behind it, which I read yesterday on The Swamp, and there was some strong pushback with his stance on renewing FISA. So it sounds like a lot of people, they don't want FISA to stick around. Here we go again. Congress is voting imminently on whether to reauthorize Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which President Trump supports. We have supported the executive branch surveillance powers that are governed by Section 702 since its enactment in 2008. Before that, we supported the predecessor surveillance program since their origins after September 11th. Powers with roots dating back to the dawn of the Republic. I would say more recently, that was probably the Patriot Act, wasn't it? Section 702 surveillance is also used for counterintelligence and interdiction of drug trafficking and human trafficking. The threat of international terrorism may not be as visible and visceral to the public as it was 25 years ago, but with the United States currently at war with the leading state sponsor of terrorism, this would be an especially inopportune time to let the legal authority for this crucial function lapse. So, of course, there's always something going on that would give them justification to keep this going. To recap, surveillance targeting Americans or targeting foreign civilians within the United States is covered by the protections of the Fourth Amendment. Well, at least it's supposed to. This may not be the case for foreign diplomats or spies or other foreign government agents. It therefore requires either a warrant or the availability of a judicially recognized exception to the warrant requirement. Nothing in Section 702 deals with those areas of surveillance. It addresses only surveillance targeting foreigners outside the United States who have no rights protected by our Constitution. Well, if he's being 100% honest with that, then, I don't think that I would be, staunchly against it. If this Section 702 specifically only deals with foreigners that are outside the United States, and as long as they're not messing with American citizens, as long as they're not spying on us. Anyway, prior to 2008, such surveillance was conducted largely by the National Security Agency on the basis of President's Article 2, National Security Powers. Section 702 did not create those powers, but it subjected them to periodic judicial review and other legal strictures. Okay, and of course, this is going to be a long read, so I'll just leave it there, and that'll be linked below. And from the FBI Louisville, you want to keep up with the latest news from the FBI? Subscribe to the FBI's YouTube channel for critical updates on investigations and how we are working every day to crush violent crime, defend the homeland, and keep Americans safe. So I think that's the first time that I've seen the FBI mention YouTube. So, since I'm right here on YouTube, why not give it a mention? So, of course, I'll also link this below, but that's their YouTube profile. They've got YouTube channel, rather, 1,100 videos, and almost 300,000 subscribers. So obviously a lot of people know about the FBI over here on YouTube. And from Secretary Markwayne Mullin, it was great meeting with FIFA President Gianni Infantino yesterday. DHS components, along with the White House Task Force for FIFA, will be working alongside FIFA to ensure all matches across the country are safe and secure. Thanks to the president's vision during his last administration, this event will be huge for the USA. And, of course, sharing some pictures, the whole FIFA meetings, making sure everything's good and secure. What did you say? 60 days? Is that what he said? Or was it 60 matches? No, I think he said it was like 72 matches or something like that. But anyway, it's coming up. Coming up this year. And let's see. Ihtisham ul Haq, or Hake. Trump says, I would go to Pakistan. Yeah, they've been great. So good. I might go to Islamabad if the deal is signed there. So, kind of giving a teaser.
Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Would you ever go to Pakistan to seal the deal yourself? I would go to Pakistan, yeah. Pakistan has been great. They've been so good. Islamabad, I might go. Yeah. If the deal.
Well, you heard it from the president. He might actually go if they've got something to sign. And here's a reporter. There was a group of bishops that did put out a statement saying that the Pope isn't merely exercising his opinion, he's preaching the gospel. What do you say to the people that do this? So, of course, the drama between President Trump and the Pope, it continues. So here's a little more on it.
Bishops that did put out a statement saying the Pope isn't merely exercising his opinion, he's preaching the gospel. I mean, what do you say to people that do this?
Well, I want him to preach the gospel. I'm all about the gospel, but I also know that you cannot let a certain country, which is a very mean-spirited country, have a nuclear weapon. If they did, they would use it, and I think they'd use it quickly, and they would kill many millions of people. So, you know, the Pope could disagree with me on that, but certainly we're allowed to have that. I'm all about the gospel. I'm about it as much as anybody can be, but I can't allow, as President of the United States of America, I can't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And here's the story. They won't have. They've already agreed not to have. That's good news.
Oh,
and
they
I
have?
think the Pope will be very happy.
All right. Well, I thought that was still up in the air. I thought they haven't agreed to that yet. I thought that was like the one thing that was standing in the way with making any kind of deal between us and Iran. So I don't know if he unintentionally just said that off the cuff or what. But if that's true, then it sounds like that we might be moving toward a resolution between the U.S. and Iran. From Fox News, breaking, President Trump says he will not meet with Pope Leo amid their feud over the war in Iran. And there's a back and forth here, so we'll hear from President Trump.
It's very important that the Pope understands. Very, very important. It would be nice not to say it. Iran killed 42,000 people that were totally unarmed. They were protesters. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. If they did, every country, including Italy, where he's stationed, every single country in the world would be in trouble. So we're doing very well with respect to that, having to do with the whole situation on Iran. The blockade is amazing. It's holding up very strong, very powerfully. And I think we're making a lot of progress in that. But the Pope has to understand Iran, very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. The world would be in great danger.
Mr. President, would you meet with the Pope to even out your differences with Catholics or torn?
I don't think it's necessary.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're just going to have a meeting and, let's just let water under the bridge, let bygones be bygones. And I'm sure it's not the last we're going to hear from the feud between President Trump and Pope Leo. All right. So let's see. Okay, we got that one. And from Defiant L's thoughts. And this is from Resist the Mainstream. Rep Toy Nails delivers a message to Pope Leo. We didn't elect the Pope to be the president or anything else, so just keep his nose in the church's business and stay out of the political arena.
Any reaction to Donald Trump's comments on the Pope over the weekend?
Smoking his cigar.
I'd probably say
probably
the Pope
a Cuban.
needs to keep his business into leading his flock, so to speak, leading the church, and probably stay out of the political arena. He doesn't need to be getting involved in the political arena. Go lead your church, but stay out of the politics. Right? We didn't elect the Pope to be the president or be the anything else. So just keep his nose in the church's business and stay out of the political arena.
But what if he sees his role as sort of leading his flock away?
No, lead his flock. Well, let's focus on just behavior, doing everything else. Just focus on your flock. And Donald Trump is our president. It's not the Pope. I didn't elect the Pope to be president.
Thank you, Congressman.
Oh, I guess it's a fair point. Look, the Pope, he can criticize all he wants. I mean, he's got a right to his own opinion, leading the Catholic Church. But yeah, I kind of tend to agree with that, though. All right, next order new Netflix stock is tanking following their Q2 operating income expected to come in hundreds of millions below estimates. Their leftist Trump-hating founder, Reed Hastings, is also leaving the board. Netflix is finding out Americans are sick of their woke BS. So hundreds of millions, I think in the grand scheme of things, like that's a lot for a quarter, but with the whole, the overall financials with Netflix, it's probably not all that amount, or not all that large of an amount of money. Although if it's going down, it's obviously not in a very good direction. So okay, so this is just showing the stock as it's moving. Looks like it's just moving today. All right, so looks like almost 10%. I mean, that's a sizable drop for sure. And for breaking 911, sports brawl, fists fly during today's Yankees-Angels game. I know it's not Swamp related, but it's Thursday. I came across it, so why not show it? Viewer discretion advised. Probably too late on that. All right, man. Fight's breaking out at the game. And here's something from Breaking 911. A man climbs atop the sphere in Las Vegas. Somebody climbs up on top of the friggin' sphere. I think this is the last thing I got. Yeah, it is. Skip ahead a little bit. See if we can figure out where he is. Wouldn't that make you dizzy standing on that thing? That moving around like that, the screens? Oh yeah, maybe not. Maybe like the pixels. Just really close up. How the hell did he even get up there? Okay. All right. Well, before I end the episode, let me see if I can find out what happened. I'm assuming he got arrested, but let's take a quick look. Well, I'm finding out that this isn't the first time this has happened. This has happened actually several times already. This one was back in February 9th of 2024, and I have that article here. So they've got a video of that.
Climbed the venue to protest for
about a year and a half ago,
Arrest
causing $100,000 worth of damage. And another one from October 17th of last year, and it looks like the most recent one from 11 hours ago. This looks like the one from Townsville Bulletin. So we'll see. Yeah, this looks like that's probably going to be it. Looks like it's just a video. So I don't know, maybe they just don't have any information. What happens in Vegas sometimes climbs the walls. A daredevil turned the iconic sphere into his personal jungle gym on April 14th as a chopper circled overhead, leaving one stunned tourist, and it just trails off there. Where's the article? There's no article. All right, well, I'm just going to assume that old dude got arrested. I mean, I'm sure that's probably what ended up happening. I doubt that there's any big, shocking surprise or anything crazy that happened. But anyway, that'll do it for this episode. So if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back tomorrow night as we explore the swamp Monday through Friday and everyone in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, the agencies, and the administration. I also post daily on X, which is where you can peek at the content for the next episode. And don't forget, the video clips from tonight will begin dropping on the channel tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for watching. Always remember to stay positive. God bless the troops, and God bless America.